Good day, Market Chameleons. Everyone joining for the first time. Thanks for coming by and watching the Market Chameleon After Hours report with Ryan Mastro. But before we get started, let's take a look at the shared disclaimer. Please be aware that neither Market Chameleon, OptionsRobot, Ryan, or myself are registered investment advisors or a broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This webinar and show is like all our webinars for informational purposes only concerning Market Chameleon and OptionsRobot tools and features. With that, let's welcome Ryan to the stage. How you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Let me add your screen. That slide over to the side. For some reason, there we go. Perfect.
There you go. Yep. So that's working. So I'll just run through a little bit of what's going on in the market. Let's just go back over to our charts and look at what's happening. Obviously, we had Bitcoin that was moving really strong. A couple of names in there that I've been following is IBIT, which is an ETF, one of the largest ETFs. It's the iShares Bitcoin Trust. So that's made a phenomenal move the last couple of days. You can see how well that's moved. You can look at something like Ethereum. One of the biggest ones there is the iShares Ethereum Trust as well. So that's done very well. So this is one that's on my radar. We may have talked about this last week a little bit, but this has been one we've been riding the wave on since like back in here. So this has been pretty strong for us. And I think as long as Bitcoin keeps going, that a lot of these names are going to keep going. So we did have really positive news from Coinbase, another idea that could be on some people's radar. They were applying for a trust status. So that would be very interesting if we can kind of get that. That's going to provide some clarity about their business and how they go about it. We had a nice move out of MicroStrategies in that same kind of move. Again, everything's been kind of moving up along with it, but a little bit of a red candle today. Hood was another name to keep on the radar. That's moved up well, but today, big gap up and reversal, pulled back off. So that's been a little bit of a, maybe we want to take some profits off on that one. We've been looking at that one from a long-term perspective as well. But just to kind of look at the market real quick, obviously it is a very strong market, right? In terms of, here's your Qs. Did that go? Not yet. There we go. So Qs just continues to print higher highs. Now today, the main driver that we saw was AMD, and AMD was a big gap up and sell into, but they moved this up to like 226, pulled it all the way back down to 200, or about there, 203. And the main idea there was that they are basically doing a partnership deal with OpenAI, and OpenAI is going to buy into them. I don't think this is very bullish in the sense that they're doing this now. A lot of people are saying this is a much better deal than NVIDIA's and a better deal than Oracle, right? In terms of how they've set up these deals. But basically, they're buying in, I think it's about 9% of AMD in warrants over time. So as AMD is able to deliver some of these GPUs and they get to a certain size, then they'll be able to buy in on certain warrants. So I guess that does make sense in a certain way, that maybe it's tied towards the stock price and where it is at that time. So maybe it's a little bit better in that sense. But I still don't think a lot of these names, what we're starting to see is that any of these parties really have the capital to do this type of investment. We're talking a lot of money to be able to come in. And right now, we're not seeing an OpenAI have that kind of cash flow. So where are they getting it from? So that would be another big kind of like gotcha moment when push comes to shove and they can't go and actually afford to pay for the chips. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But today, nonetheless, everything was up pretty strong. I think the only one was down was probably NVIDIA, mainly because of, and here's your SMH. If you go into something like a NVIDIA, that was down just because it's major competition. Right now, they're doing a deal with OpenAI, and they already had a deal with OpenAI. So maybe they're not going to get as many. So again, we'll have to see, is this something that they're just trying to spread the wealth so they don't get completely hamstrung? Maybe they're a little bit cheaper as well over at AMD. So, but NVIDIA down a little bit. Again, that's the big dog. The other name in there to keep an eye on is Taiwan Semi. That was up very strong. Obviously, everyone does business with Taiwan Semi in terms of the foundry, and they were up pretty big here. So these are all positive names that are all, moving pretty well, maybe except for Nvidia, and looking pretty good on the chart. So those are all potential as you're looking at the bigger picture. Now, we also had really good movement out of the quantum space. So RGTI has been absolutely on fire. We talked about this. I actually have this as a position that we've shared in here. And this one we had just to show, let me just show the history events in this one. So we had bought this, let me just see, position here, history maybe a little better. So we had entered with an entry bot. Again, this is just a one lot. So we had bought calls. It was breaking over 20. We jumped into that one, and then we rolled as it was breaking 40, and we rolled up to the 30 calls. So we're still in the 30 calls riding this wave. And today it had another good move. I think it closed up a couple of bucks. So this space, there's a couple of names in here you may want to watch. QBTS is one, and I think this has been, again, a great move today. IONQ had a great move today. So just to update that, that's taken out the highs back in here. So that looks relatively strong. The one I was looking at is QUBT, and this actually sold some stock today to a private placement. So the stock was actually down a little bit. But I think this could be one you start to look at in the bigger picture if this starts to break back above these highs and the rest of the names go, since it's a little bit of a laggard. So that would be one I'd put on my radar. I would use something like maybe even the high of the day, since it's right above this high and this high. So let's do an example of this one just to show you. So that high of the day is 23.39. I would look at an entry bot. And we'll go over to QUBT. And we looked at last week. I'll cover that. And I'm just going to add an option, and I'm going to buy let's see, the 23s. So a little bit of time on this. I'll do a quick entry, and there, right, in terms of entering. So a quick create. And that gives us the ability to get into a trade. And I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm going to leave this alone for 1 second. I want to go back to the chart, look at what the ATR is on this. So this is probably moving, I'm going to guess, about $1 a day. Let's just look at our average true range. Actually, a little bit more, $2.28. So that's pretty good. That's a lot on a per day basis. So volatility is probably up a little bit. But if we look at the position, what we can do real quick is put in, once we get filled on our order, we can put in a contingent. So I probably want to look at something on an ATR basis that's at least a roll. So I want to roll, if I get one full ATR movement, $2, then I'll look to exit that. Now I'll go back and add stops later. I can do that differently if I wanted to. I can do that with, if I didn't want to be in this position and I would say cancel, I cancel all my positions. I can look at a different one. I could say I could do 3 rolls of the options value, 20%, and these have stops built into them. So maybe I'll just do that one just to show you the stop process. So by me just clicking on that, I deployed a template, and that looks like this. So if I do get into my option, if I move up by 20%, I would lock in a gain and roll. If I were to, this is my gain over here, this is my loss. So my gain goes down to the next level. And if I did that again by 20, and then I'd have a stop, right? Or sorry, stops over here on the right, and this is my gain. So I would keep doing that until I wanted to get out of the position, right? Basically build that in. So all of those orders are built into that. And I think that's very important to kind of just show the potential, because you can't do that on any other system right now. There's no other system out there that's going to allow you to build this template in a way you want, customized to whatever your criteria are. Again, this is just a standard one. You can go and build ones for 30%, 40%, smaller stops. Again, depending on what style you like to trade, what type of strategy you like to trade as well. So let's get back over to our Market Chameleon. Again, I'm always a big guy that's going to come over to the screeners. There's several ways to go in and do this. Obviously, they put this nice little section in here. Looking at implied volatility. I love to look at implied volatility and look for really cheap opportunities or things that have percentage changes in the stock, and then I can see where our current implied volatility is moving in Y, right? So that it gives us a good idea of names that are starting to move. So this is one scan I like. Again, there's so much in here. I can't even explain how in depth these guys have gone in terms of really diving deep into it. Now, if you look at the options, the other thing I like is the unusual options volume, right? I do this on an everyday basis. I look at this and try and find opportunities. Obviously, the top several names are moving because of the news, right? So 2 million options on this thing on an average volume of 783. That's just insane. But there's a reason for it, right? We had that big gap. So a lot of people are starting to position themselves over top of what the big gap was. IBIT, a lot of volume because the big gap in Bitcoin, right? So Plug's been absolutely insane. We talked about this multiple times. This has been in the news here for a while, and this continues to make new higher highs. Probably worth keeping on your radar. Snap starting to come to life, right? That is one. Let's just look at that on a chart here real quick. And starting to look at that one. Let me hide this here real quick for you as well. So let's go over to Snap and SNAP. And this was starting to come back to life here, right? The last couple of days, kind of a indecision candle on this one, but this could be interesting when we start to take out highs, right? I don't mind this one in terms of the action on there. I'm probably going to avoid it. I may want to set an alert on that. So for something like this, what I would do is come over and set an alert at the high there. So if I create an alert, just go back to Snap, SNAP, and it's giving me the price action on that. So I'm going to say greater than the 888. I'm going to make it a little further away. I'm going to say $9 to show me that's back up through the high. I'm going to do this as a one-time event and just quick create there. So that's a quick position update, and I'll get alerted on that so I know. So let's come back over here, see if we can find.
Just to confirm, the question is, if it goes above 9, you'll get a pop-up or an email. How's that alert system work? Someone's asking.
Yeah, this one's set up right now as a push notifications to your website, and you can get it set up for email. I don't think we have the SMS set up properly right now because we're getting some pushback from Apple. And I think this is for pretty much everyone that has a financial program. If it's not directly from a broker, they're pushing back on that. So we lost our SMS to be able to send that out. But what we're trying to do, and which we do have, and it's in the works, is an app that will do push notifications right to your cell phone if you have the app for the alerts themselves. That should be out in the next couple of weeks. So we're excited about that. But yeah, so right now it's an Apple problem that we have to work around, and we're getting there. So we'll get there. Any other questions while we're here?
Nope, that's the first one that popped up.
Okay, awesome, thank you. So if you guys do have questions, feel free to push them in. The one I didn't see until I'm looking at this now is this Webull. Webull has been kind of interesting because it's a beaten down stock, and you can see they're trading 338,000 on 145 average. So that's a lot going on there. Webull is one that we are looking to connect to. And this has been sideways forever, and that's actually moving lower. So that's a tough one, right? I'm probably not going to jump into that. I know you guys are big fans of IBKR. Just looking at a couple of these other names, right? So a lot of these. Oops, that didn't work. I hate when that does that. IBKR, Interactive Brokers, just to see what the market's doing. So Hood was down, Interactive Brokers was down. Webull was down. I imagine Schwab probably going to feel like that's moving lower. That did okay, right? So that's kind of holding tough in there. Not too bad on some of those names. But let's go back over here to find what else is moving. Qubit, we already talked about, set up a trade idea there. QBTS, CleanSpark's one. It's just too far out for me. It's moved so much. Just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, CLSK, CleanSpark. Right, it's already made such a dramatic move. You've gone from $9 to $18 in what, about 2 weeks, maybe 3, something like that. You're back up against resistance. Maybe if you want to use something like the high back in here, but again, I don't know how much further these things are going to run without having Bitcoin really start to go. This one now is, I think, changed their Stance, I believe it's this one. Maybe it's IREN. Looks something similar. I know they've gone to the data center model, and they've done even that much more. They've gone from 20, well, let's just say 16 or 15 to 52 here today. So that thing has just been off to the races. And that's on the list here as well. So I saw that down here. I believe I saw that IREN. I thought I saw it on here. Maybe not. But you can see Cypher's done very well. BIT Bitfarm's done pretty well. So again, a couple of names in here to be on the radar. PayPal, I believe we talked about PayPal last week, and PayPal was one that, let me go to the positions, because I still think I have this close to being set up. Now this one triggered. So PayPal looks like we may have gotten stopped at. Nope, it looks like it's live, still live here. So PayPal, we had, let me just look at our events. Last week we had set and said, yep, on the 29th, we set this one back above 70.70, and we're in an option here that is, we bought for 105. So let's just look at that from a where we're at on the position. So we're up $35 on the trade. We got some rolls set up in here if the stock were to go back above 73.50. So again, the system is set up for that. So let's take a quick peek at that. Maybe we want to evaluate the system to say, maybe we want to move that a little bit closer, take our profit off a little bit sooner. But I think PayPal looks good, right? I think in the bigger picture, starting to break out above this high, this would be on my radar, right? In terms of let me just zoom in for you a little bit and blow this up to see what I'm talking about. So you've cleared out this zone, all the action right in here, put together a really higher close. Now our next bigger resistance is over in here. I think we set this up right around that high, whereas was our 73.50. So if we get up there, that's when we're going to try to consider a roll as our next bigger target. So this is following it through pretty nicely on that one. Let's get out of this scan and let's go back over to, I don't really do the options, but let's do some implied volatility. See if there's anything in here that starts to jump out at us. Again, I'm doing this by the seat of my pants, and I'm using what's in here. And Hive is an interesting one, right? That is, I believe, a miner as well. That was up pretty good today. I don't see anything that really jumping out at me besides the main names here that I really like. Now, you guys did a video, and I got to follow up on it because I saw you guys were doing a really good video this morning, and I haven't had a chance to watch it. So I would encourage everyone to go back and look at their video from this morning. I believe that was talking about aggregated volume throughout the day. And I thought that was a really interesting concept to be able to find those opportunities. So I'm going to go back and watch that right when I'm done this. So finally the day's over and I can focus on how you guys are looking for other opportunities. So in terms of one other name that I will bring to the table that I will share, CRM caught my eye later in the day here. Actually, I'll give you two more names. CRM, and I thought this had a good candle, had a really good close, made a nice high. I think if we got back above this area, this is going to make a bigger run towards the 258 area. So maybe something we want to do would be, maybe it's above this close, right? I want to set an alert or maybe a trigger level up in here around 249. The only problem with that is a little far away, right? So maybe you want to be a little tighter, evaluate it tomorrow morning. So that's probably what I'll do is I'm going to set an alert on that. Just say, if I get above here, that's about 248.35. So something like that, 248.35. I'm going to lower that a little bit. Just do another one real quick. So CRM, we'll do that. And we'll say if it gets, I don't want to go too far, right? I don't want to go all the way up to the high of the day, but maybe I'll split the difference and say something like 247.50. Then what I'll do is I'll evaluate it. How strong is the market? How is the stock moving? How are the options priced out? And just want to evaluate, kind of how that looks. And again, if I do look at it at 247.50, let's look at our options here real quick and go over there and CRM. And so 40, we closed around 40. No, CRM, really? Was it 41? No, 245.
No,
That's a lot better. There we
245.
go. So 245. Yeah, I mean, it's a little expensive, right? For my taste. Yeah. So I mean, it's a little expensive. But again, it's got plenty of movement, plenty of opportunity here. But maybe at 247 when it's up there, these options are going to be about what's you got delta wise, so $2. You're looking at maybe a little bit a little bit cheaper, maybe about 450, something like that, in terms of the options when you get up there. Again, it comes back to everyone's risk tolerances, what you are comfortable with. You may want to be playing cheaper stocks, or if you're comfortable with a more expensive one. Another one that I would share with you would be Microsoft, MSFT. And this one I think has really good movement today. So I'd be looking at, again, I'll share the chart with you in 1 second. Options are a little bit more expensive in here. They're about $5, $6. But I think with good movement, again, you can expect really good movement out of this, right? You're about $6 if you like the little bit more expensive options or like the bigger chance for probability of movement. Then this one may be in your bag here, because you get up to like the 530 area. Let's look at the chart real quick. Again, you're looking at roughly $5 for that option right now. But if you look at the chart, let me go back to the chart on that Microsoft. This one I thought had a really, really good day today. And again, I don't know how high you want to go on it. The high is pretty far away. It's 531. So maybe you want to find something on the intraday that excites you, or wait till you open and then starts to move. Because I think if they're going to move the market, they're going to need an Apple. Apple hasn't done anything. Microsoft's the one that's moving right now, AAPL. That's been stalled right in here. Maybe you take out the highs on that. You do have to go back a little bit. There's the high back here is the all-time high, which is 260.10. So you've been dancing with that level on Apple as well. So that'd be another one I put on my radar as well. So that's all, and I'll answer any questions if you want me to answer any, Will.
Excellent. We with the gold stocks and the miners having moved so much, is there anything you would do with the options to play something like GLD?
I would not play GLD. I'll tell you why. GLD is a pretty big and it's good mover. I think you can get good movement out of maybe the GDX. It's going to be a little bit cheaper to play, and you can get a lot of the miners, which I think are still undervalued. So you may want to play even some of the miners, like a Newmont Mining or something along those lines. This is one I used to trade on the floor. I've been playing some of the silver names like Hecla, dirt cheap. It's like 12 bucks. CDE is another one I think that is cheap. You can play. There's a bunch of other names, like even like a Pan American Silver, PAAS. That's about $40. A lot of these have jumped dramatically, but again, I think silver. I had a bet with a guy the other day that silver would reach 50 before gold reached 4,000. But I think he's got a better probability now because it's getting close. But you can play GDX, right? The options aren't bad in there, so you could play something like that and play. Oops, let me go over for trade. Let's look at that options here real quick and see how expensive they are. I mean, you're talking about a relatively cheap play because it's a little bit less volatile than GLD, and I think the implied vol is a little bit lower. So if you're looking at an ETF that is trading around 78, and you look at the 79s for $1.25 for this week, if you go out, let's say another week or two, let's say even to the end of the month, let's say, let's give it to middle of November, right? You're probably looking at, $4. That's you're right around that $4 marker. So for giving yourselves 45 days, is it right? 45 days, I think, to expiration. No, maybe it's a little longer than that. So October, so 20, it's 30, yeah, a little bit longer than that. So it's not too bad. But this, something like that, I would probably look at the different options in between here where you get comfortable, right? In terms of going from 11 to, maybe the end of October, Halloween, right? Are they cheap? 311, that's not bad for a 39 call. I wouldn't do anything like a call vertical and something like this. I just don't think it's warranted to kind of hedge it off, right? So I'd probably buy a naked call and something like this because it's not that expensive, right? Again, to be able to play the opportunity, just to give you an idea of movement on this, what I would probably look at is something like the average true range. And just give you an idea, you're moving at only what's that, $1.92 a day, right? So again, it's pretty fairly priced if you're trying to get several weeks of movement out of that. That's going to move $1.92 a day for $3 an option. So I don't mind that at all.
Now you mentioned a small miner, I think Hexla. Is that something you play with options or just play the stock outright?
I would play that with options, right? I like Hecla. Hecla's I've been in this since down in here. So I jumped in the 4.5 calls out in January. So I've been riding the wave on this thing, and this thing just continues to look pretty good. The other one is CDE. So yeah, you can play. Look, I mean, if you want to play it with stock, you can. It's moving. It's not moving a lot per day. I jumped into a kind of a slightly in the money option. I got to roll them up. So this is one that I don't have it in this system, but I have it in, let's see. So let's actually look at on the option. So we do an in the money option and hold this for quite some time and give yourself, the ability to maybe buy more options. So if I look at Hecla HL, I'll do this again, HL, and you can buy probably something like the 7s or the 8s or the 10s and still buy something in the money and not be spending a fortune, right? So I would prefer, personally, I would say go out and give yourself some time. I'm in the Jans, right? I'm like, all right, I want plenty of time on this because I think the bigger picture is I want to own something. So you can go all the way out to January, buy like the 10s for 320. That's significantly in the money, right? You're trading at 12, so that's $2.50 in the money. And it gives you a good amount of time to be able to hold something like that. So versus buying the stock for $12.52 and laying all that cash out, I would prefer to do something like that. You can still sell call options against it, like as a diagonal. But again, this is something I'd probably just hold and buy a couple of these. And if you're going to buy and go buy 100 shares of this and spend that, I'd probably go, maybe use half of that amount of money and go buy options with it.
Very cool. Last thing was Snap. You set an alert for Snap if it hits $9. What would you need to see if it hits $9? And would you play that with the options again? Look something near to at the money or something just out of the money to play it? How does something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, something like Snap. Look, it's cheap enough that it's not going to overwhelm you. But again, I want to have that explosiveness with the option to be able to have it. If you want to play the stock, you truly believe this is going to be the be all end move, it's going to continue to move higher here, then maybe that's something you want to play. But for me, I'd probably say if I'm going to buy something like the 9 calls or maybe slightly in the money, given the move that it's already had, I want to see the follow through though, right? Today's candle is like a spinning top, they call it. It's basically an indecision candle. So they want to see, for me, I'd want to see it move higher, maybe start to take out, maybe the open, then look to jump in the at the monies, right? Would fit very well there. So you jump into something like, I keep going to position, this should be going to options. So bear with me one sec. If I go over to Snap and they're dirt cheap options, and that is not correct. So I gotta click Snap. There we go. So $9 should be $8.50. So I look at the 9 calls. I can give myself some time on this. I'm not going to play those for 16 cents. I probably want to have some time and trade something of substance and say maybe I want to play the 9s or maybe even play the in the money. So I give myself some delta here, right? If I play the 8s, wish I had the 8.5s out here, but they play the 9s, and that's still giving you, wow, is that right? No, 50 delta. So 64 delta out here. That's not bad. The 8s for 140. I'd probably play that for the 64 delta and then give myself a really good roll if I get up to the high. If I get up to this recent high, maybe get a good roll and move up to the 9s from there, right? If I get up to something like 928, lock that gain in and then stay in the 9s and then go from there. So that's kind of how I would probably play it.
All right. That was great stuff, Ryan. We're right up against the hour. One last bit of information for everyone. Can you tell them about OptionsRobot, how they would sign up for OptionsRobot, what the process is, what exchanges it works with?
So it works with all exchanges. It basically works with your broker, right? Our end goal is to get all the brokers in there. Right now we have Schwab, Alpaca, and Tradier. So again, our ideal goal is we'll get into the E-Trades, the trade stations, the interactive brokers. But we're just taking our time and getting all those done and tested. We are been a lot of requests for Tasty Trade as well. So. But Schwab is one of our bigger ones. We've been integrated with them for over a year now, and it's been a very good relationship there. So anybody on that, you can connect. What that will do is you can connect any of your accounts that you have. You can see all the different accounts. You can switch them in and out, and trade inside of those accounts. So to get connected to us, just go to OptionsRobot.com. We do have a free trial for 14 days. For you guys right now, there is a special running that I can give you guys, which is straight October. Just use the coupon code for October. That'll give you 50% off any of the packages that we have in there. I recommend using the pro level service. That allows you to connect to your broker. And I also recommend the longer term. Now you can do the trial and cancel anytime. If you want to use the coupon to its biggest bang for buck, go to the annual package, because it's a one-time coupon, and that gives you basically a bigger discount on the packages. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, so OptionsRobot.com. Appreciate it.
Great, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. This has been a weekly series. It's gone on for a couple months now, and the Chameleon community really loves it. So thanks for doing it for us, buddy.
No problem. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you next Monday. Have a great week. All right, everyone. That was Ryan Mastro from OptionsRobot. He brings a tool that really is the best in the marketplace for helping you manage your trades when you can't sit in front of your computer and trade all day. So you can do your research at night, set up the trades, and let the OptionsRobot manage them for you. So for that, we're very thankful. For people who are joining for the first time and not Market Chameleon users, make sure you go to Market Chameleon, click on free trial, give it a go. It's a 7-day free trial. As Ryan mentioned, Dimitri and I have a daily webinar series where we try to make it daily. That doesn't mean we get it every day. We do have a lot of stuff going on, but we try to do it every trading day, 9 a.m. And that you can go to MarketChameleon.com on YouTube, and you'll also have all our webinars there in forever. We have a couple thousand now, so a lot of good information there. We'll see Ryan next Monday at 4:30, Dimitri and I tomorrow at 9. Everyone have a great day, and thanks for joining us.